Alright, so the iPhone 15 Pro has been out for about a week now, and some of you are probably wondering, what's the difference? Should I upgrade? As a matter of fact, a few content creator friends of mine have even reached out to me asking if it was worth getting if they have a 13 Pro or 14 Pro. And well, let me show you what you're missing. What is up guys, my name is Tyler, and today I'm going to show you the things you're missing out on by not upgrading to the iPhone 15. Specifically the 15 Pro Max, because that's all I have my hands on at the moment, and to be honest, the Pro models in my opinion are the way to go if you plan to use these for content creation. Let's start off with the fact that the 15 now comes with USB-C. A big deal when it comes to data transfer and even recording video, among other things. Ever run out of storage on your phone because you filmed 20 takes of that one TikTok dance? Yeah, well, the 15 Pro lets you record video externally to an SSD, giving you much more freedom when recording and helping separate your content from your everyday photos and videos. No more swiping through your photos, sweating beads, hoping one of those photos or videos doesn't get glued to your screen. It happens to the best of us. You can also use the USB-C port for photo tethering with a compatible app like Capture One in case you can't afford that kind of creepy photographer who always wants to take your photo. My cosplay friends know who I'm talking about. And boy, does the 15 Pro Max make for a great camera. Remember portrait mode? Well, she had a glow up and now practically stands over your shoulder checking to see if your photo is good enough to be a portrait. How intrusive. In all seriousness though, every time you take a photo on the 15 Pro, you'll sometimes see the aperture symbol, which looks like this. It'll show up on your camera screen, meaning when you take the photo, you'll have the option to turn it into a portrait photo later. Not only that, but you can even change subjects, aperture, etc. Now, you can already adjust the focus of your portrait photos on the 14 Pro. Yeah, bet you didn't know you could do that, did you? But you have to shoot the photo in the old portrait mode in order to do so. The 15 Pro just kind of does it when you're not thinking about it. This is due in part to Apple's approach to their computational photography pipeline, or photonic engine, which I know is a big silly word, but essentially the iPhone takes many photos at once and combines them all to give you the best balance of all the things you'd want. So be thankful next time your phone makes you look good, because no offense, but a lot of work needs to be done to make that image look good. Moving on. The iPhone 15 Pro Max also has a new 5x tetraprismal hexagonal diagonal limited slip parabolic lens, which if you weren't paying any attention, just means it has more zoomies than the other two. Granted, both the 13 Pro and 14 Pro have a 3x optical zoom camera. The 5x camera on the 15 Pro, when used correctly, can create some beautiful compression, which looks incredible for portraits or even slow-mo video. I know a lot of people don't use tight zooms, but let me turn you on. I've talked about compression before, but clearly none of you are listening. So let's try this again. Compression is basically taking your subject, moving the camera physically further away, but zooming in to frame your subject to be the same size, which as a result makes the background gigantic, leaving you with this very impactful image. Just keep in mind, it will distort your subject's face the more compression you give, so be gentle. Honestly, one of my biggest pet peeves in photography are people who are afraid to shoot tighter. So come here, shoot tighter. Stop being basically compression this time around is even easier to achieve. So if you go 15 Pro Max, I better see y'all shooting tight, or else. The tighter, the better. The other cool thing about the camera on the 15 Pro is that you can tap on the 1x and get different focal lengths. This is so you can pretend like you know what you're doing when that friend asks you to shoot their next IG post because you found yourself becoming everyone's cameraman. Use the 35mm and thank me later. Seriously though, I love that Apple included 3 common focal lengths here: 24mm, 28mm, and 35mm. Personally, I think the 35mm looks the best as it gives you a decently wide shot, but still tight enough to be used as a portrait. Outside that, both the 15 and 14 Pro use a 48 megapixel main sensor and 2 12 megapixel sensors for the telephoto and the ultra-wide cameras. The 13 Pro, however, only has 12 megapixel cameras, so keep that in mind. This means if you already have a 14 Pro, you won't be getting anything new hardware-wise unless you go with the 15 Pro Max, which has that new 5x camera in place of the standard telephoto camera, which personally may not be the best choice for most of you. Now, if you're on a 13 Pro, you may see a slight difference in quality, but personally, I don't think it's going to be that noticeable to you unless under certain circumstances, so don't sweat it too much. What's more important than megapixels though is good lighting and a good idea, so maybe focus on that first. Now, let's talk about video. So the cool thing about iPhones these days is that you can record in something called ProRes, which is another silly word you don't need to pay too much attention to, But what it means is that your footage will be recorded in a format more suitable for editing, along with some other advantages. Keep in mind, ProRes compresses your footage much less than H.264 or H.265, which means your files will be much larger, but generally easier to work with and slightly higher quality. This is where the 15 Pro's ability to record externally comes into play. The 14 Pro, on the other hand, will give you a time limit telling you how much you can record in ProRes until your phone's had enough of your bullshit. Another thing you can do on the 15 Pro is record ProRes 60p for that ultra sexy slow-mo, something your 14 Pro just can't do. And finally, the 15 Pro can do ProRes log. Now, before y'all start recording in log, you need to realize that log is used to retain as much dynamic range as possible. This means that the image is going to be very washed out, or as we say, flat, like the personalities of most people today. In any case, you can mostly ignore this feature because it's a bit advanced, and I don't recommend using it unless you actually know what you're doing. But if you want to see how to use log footage on the iPhone, then make sure to get subscribed, or just subscribe for my slightly passive-aggressive sarcasm. Both are great. So let's wrap this up. What do you need to know? The biggest reason to upgrade from a 13 or 14 Pro to the 15 Pro is gonna be the video capabilities, in my opinion. Sure, the 5x camera on the Pro Max is nice, but to be honest, it's not ideal for self-shooting, so if you're planning to shoot alone, you can go with a standard 15 Pro, unless you're like me and prefer the larger screen, in which case, go Pro Max. Now, as far as photos go, both the 14 Pro and the 15 Pro have the same cameras, more or less. The 15 Pro just has more options within those cameras, as well as some additional processing, giving you a bit more flexibility, but the overall quality of the photos are arguably similar, not to mention that both can do RAW, if you're into that sort of thing. So TLDR, if you're using a 13 Pro or 14 Pro, you're probably safe this year unless you really need that external recording space or really want to learn how to use ProRes log so you can substitute your iPhone for a more expensive camera setup. Outside that, all three are going to look and feel the same to you, so don't let anyone give you new phone envy. We all know the best creators will make their best content on the phone or camera they have. So, save your money and spend it on other parts of your content like lighting, audio, or maybe visual effects like the one I use for Motion VFX. Link in the description. And that's about it. I was gonna cover more about the phones themselves, but I realized what people probably care about more is whether or not it'll up their follower game, and sadly, no. However, I hear if you double press the action button, it'll actually... there you go. Literally couldn't tell you what's going on. All right, that's it. Yeah, Fujifilm looks so much better already right off the bat, dude. Look at this. Hat backward. Bro, it's time, dog. It's time. Yes!
No! Do not.
Oh, you can't see it though. Wait, can you if I... It's like... Stop! I want to show the people. It's like red.